Welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom podcast, brought to you by Southern Jewelry News and Jewelry Store Marketers. Hello everyone, this is Guy with Jewelry Store Marketers, and this is another episode of the Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry podcast, and I'm really excited to do this podcast here at RJO in Minneapolis. And unfortunately, my lovely co-host Elisa Dillon is not here, but we miss you, Elisa. Love you. Today, I am here with Paul Holewa.
Holewa.
Okay, and you're a staff writer on Southern Jewelry News.
Yep, Southern Jewelry News and Mid-America Jewelry News.
Perfect. So, great. Well, glad to have you here. Elisa said that you're really, really great to talk to. Have a lot of knowledge about the jewelry industry, and
she's very kind.
so. And you're a native of Minneapolis.
Yeah, born and raised here in Minneapolis. I lived here most of my life, with the exception of 11 years over in Bangkok, Thailand, which is where I kind of grew up in the gemstone and jewelry industry, working with Fred Mowad and developing In-Store magazine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. So, how long has it been since you've been kind of working in the jewelry industry?
Let's see, it's probably going on 2.5 decades, which long time.
So, have you noticed any changes in the industry much?
Yeah, a lot of changes that I've seen come and go are, the way the way retailers are working with their inventory. There used to be that period where, they would buy a lot of inventory and try to sell it. Then we went to brass and glass. I know that's sort of an outdated term, but I think the really interesting way that segued into a better business model is bringing on more bench jewelers and doing more custom work in the store, right. And with that, more repairs. And I think that the custom work and the repair work have become huge profit centers for retail jewelers, because they call the shots, they do the quality control, and they don't have to outsource. It's all done in-house. And what I'm seeing is it's like a lot of retail jewelers are doing more repairs at the very least, but with custom work as well. And the great thing about the advancement in technology is a lot of the stuff that like casting machines, polishers, all of that stuff has become like desktop size. Now we've got lasers that can, again, tabletop size.
Yeah.
And I think all that compactness, as the technology has advanced, has really done a lot to facilitate retail jewelers doing more and more custom and becoming better at it. The only problem is we're at a definite shortage of bench jewelers in America, and I think that's a real mission that the industry should get behind. Right. Because I've always considered bench jewelers sort of the unsung heroes of the industry. They're the ones that are doing a lot of creative work. They're doing all the production, and the salesperson or the store owner comes out and says, "Look at this beautifully finished product," and because they're the one presenting it to the customer, of course, they get all the attention and accolades. It's very few jewelry store owners that I see will say, "Hey, can you hold on a moment? Let me introduce you to Sue or Bob, the bench jeweler that did this."
Right.
And so they'll bring the bench jeweler out and say, "Hey, here's the person who did it."
And that's the thing; they're in the back. I know one of the jewelry stores in Indiana that we went to. Their whole workshop was downstairs.
Yeah.
Downstairs. So they were kind of. You're right. They're kind of unsung heroes in the background, and that's interesting.
Anyway, I've, for instance, I recently wrote a story about Mid-America in Mid-America Jewelry News on an Indiana-based retailer who started his own bench jeweler store or bench jewelry school. Now it's a small shop. It's got a few desks, but hey, he's done his part. And serving his community. Now he's teaching bench jewelry work. And I was really pleased after this, just before the story was finalized, I found out that a group of Minnesota bench jewelers went down there for a week-long certification.
Oh wow!
So that was really cool, because it's interesting because he's pulling in bench jewelers from other parts of the country, and he's got his curriculum set up so you kind of go in there, get a quick chunk of knowledge, get your certification, boom, back to your store with all this fresh knowledge, fresh skills, new and revived enthusiasm, and they're good to go.
Right.
Yeah, it's anyway. I don't mean to dwell too much on bench jewelers, but again, I think this is a real critical thing that the industry really, really needs to address.
Right. And we're here at RJO, and RJO has their scholarships.
Yes.
Which helps the industry, and so that's really interesting, and it's really a fun industry, a great industry, great people.
It is, it's and that's why I'm really glad that I've been able to keep a foot in it for so long. I mean, I started this back in Bangkok in the mid 1990s, and the people I met then are the people I still meet today.
Right.
And so people are very invested in this, not just as a career, but I think there's an emotional attachment to it, and there's a passion attached to it. And what's really funny is that everybody kind of has different likes and dislikes. Like some people really love diamonds, and
right.
Some people really love colored stones. Some people are just total watch geeks, and other people just really like finished jewelry that complements their appearance. But the great thing about a jewelry show like this is you always see people wearing really nice jewelry.
Absolutely.
Because you go out, you kind of go out in your everyday walk of life, at the grocery store, at the shopping mall, and
Exactly. So one of the stories that you wrote about last year, I believe, was about a jeweler right here in your hometown.
Yes.
Minneapolis.
Yep.
And this is around the time, which is a very tumultuous time, and so could you tell me about that? What was going on here in your hometown?
Throughout, so I've been writing for a lot of years, and you and I discussed in the prior to the podcast about what was a real impactful story for me in the course of my career as a trade journalist. Again, like I said earlier, Guy, there's been lots of great human interest stories. There have been lots of interesting turnaround stories, and I appreciate those. Giving back to the community, all that's great stuff. But the thing that we really need to pay attention to is, there's really becoming a security problem here in a lot of major cities. And so we experienced that in, I think, May of 2 years ago, in 2020. When the George Floyd thing came up, there was all sorts of race riots in the Twin Cities, and there was one particular jeweler that I know, Knox Jewelers. Now Knox is in an interesting part of the Twin Cities, or Minneapolis rather. So as you kind of go through the suburbs in South Minneapolis, it kind of leads into what we call the uptown area. And he's on an area that's just between, as you kind of segue through uptown, then you get into the downtown area, which is where we are right now. Anyway, so uptown, as I stated in the article, is a real eclectic mix of businesses, residents, people that have gone out there and restored old homes and so forth. But it's there's definitely some bad apples in the area. And so, and the George Floyd incident happened, I think, and the actual incident where the police took him down was very far from this area, but for some reason in the uptown area is where a lot of these riots, of mainly peaceful protesters, started coming up, and so Ryan kind of got word that the protests would be coming his way in the Lindell area in uptown. So he did what he could to do some preventive, work, like boarding up his shop, and he was posting a lot of stuff on social media about it. But I really liked, Ryan's passion when he was talking about, his store, because you just can't sort of stand by and just let these rioters come in and loot your store and just trash a multi-generational business. If you looked at what happened in some of the further into Minneapolis, just before you reach uptown, like in the Nicollet area, there were small businesses that were just destroyed. They were looted, trashed, burned to the ground.
Right.
I mean, it looks like a war. It looked like a war zone down there.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ryan took it upon himself to go down there and kind of create a little bit of a bunker inside of his store, and brought a shotgun, some ammunition, some food, and held his ground. And I remember him saying that the real bad part of the riots was about 3 days. But he says, and they were every hour of those 72 hours was very unnerving for Ryan.
Yep.
But it kind of came down to about 2 or 3 minutes where, someone actually tried to break into it. And this person pulled a gun. Ryan also pulled a gun. And the other thing that really saved him was there was a gentleman across the street who was defending his business. And the reason why he was so adamant and very well armed, this is the guy across the street, is because the rioters were pouring gasoline down HVAC vents on the roofs and then setting them on fire.
Oh my gosh.
So the fires would go down the HVAC vent into the building and then burn it from the inside out. And so this guy was directly across from Knox Jewelers.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ryan was face to face with this guy, and they were literally going back and forth. It was, I got a gun, you got a gun, I know you got a gun, yeah, I got a gun too. And so he ratcheted his weapon, and then the bad guy ratcheted his weapon. It's just like a total standoff.
Yeah.
And then the guy that was on the roof across the way fired some rounds in the air, scared off the bad guys, and Ryan got away with his life.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the only damage that he really had to he was trying to get out of there in a hurry, so he banged up his vehicle, pulling away from the scene. But he was able to recruit some friends, and to this day, I hope they're still his best friends, and they celebrate once a year that they're still alive.
Yeah.
It's just, I was amazed that at his passion. He says, look, if this business goes, my employees are out of work.
Right.
They have no way to support their family. I'm not going to let them get this business. I'm not going to let these people take away the livelihood of my employees, and I'm not going to let them compromise what we've worked so hard for decades for.
Right.
And I just go, hats off to you.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was a story that really impacted me is, one, I admire passion like that. Ryan's second generation, and I know I've interviewed his father for a number of stories. I've interviewed Ryan for a number of stories, and so I know the family and the family business real well. And so I was really taken that again by his passion and his willingness to put his life on the line to save the business. Now, a lot of people take financial risk with investments, risk with time, or all of those resources. But he literally put his life on the line to save his family business.
Right.
That's why, again, as I was telling you earlier, I kind of watched with interest that California jewelry store where some bad guys came in, and the staff come from behind the counter and literally, punching and kicking until the guys left.
Right.
The thing that retail jewelers or anybody that's in a security situation needs to remember is bad guys want to do one thing. They want to get in, grab what they want to grab, and they want to get out. And then and if you start costing them time and making it difficult, yes, you put yourself at risk, but it discourages them and makes them want to move on to an easier target.
Right.
So
did they, the guys over at Knox, did they say, kind of thinking about this after the fact, like they wish they did this also, or they're glad they put these measures in place? What was their takeaway from this?
Well, prior to this event, it's an area that sort of necessitates or warrants, good security.
Yeah.
And so, thankfully, there were security cameras that allowed him to have a pretty good, panoramic of the not a panoramic, a pretty good view of what's coming.
Yeah.
From the streets toward the store. So he was smart in that fact.
Yeah.
But again, security measures only go so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to just close encounters and physical threats, and with weapons, there's really only so much you can do.
Exactly.
And he's a very lucky guy. But I really love that those store owners and those business owners all sort of bonded together.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them just sort of just abandoned ship and says, well, if my business is ruined, I'll just collect the insurance. It's just like, that's really not the attitude you want to take. I understand that.
Yeah.
You could be a parent with small kids and you can't afford to lose your life or your income, but Ryan is, at that time he's got a wife, he's got young kids, and again he put that on the line. It's incredible. And I guess locally, it's a local story for me, and not so much a national story for the industry to sort of read about and learn from.
Yep.
And the George Floyd incident was very unfortunate, and I think we can all agree on that. But you don't solve an issue of injustice or an unjust killing by going out and destroying people's businesses.
Exactly.
And even minority-owned businesses were just completely destroyed and burnt to the ground. So I just didn't get the hostility.
Right.
It's just Martin Luther King, Gandhi, peaceful protest. Whatever happened to that?
Right. Well, I guess that is something very possible to happen in any city, but thank God it doesn't happen too often. We do hear about it, and obviously it makes the news. And
yeah.
We've
got about 10 minutes before I let
all right, and we are at RJO, and we are at RJO before the show opens, so we can do this.
That's Elisa's fill-in.
Yeah. And so it's we're here with a lot of jewelers and a lot of exhibitors, and it's a great industry to be in. I think a lot of people are really doing well in the jewelry industry, and RJO does a great job with this.
They really do. I like RJO because the show's exhibitors and the RJO itself caters to a lot of small small town retailers, mom and pop shops that are just it's a business that they're passionate about, they've gotten into, they really want to bring good designs and good quality designs to their customers.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of the of access to the internet and social media. It's just once that was back in the 80s and 90s, it was just sort of gold chains and rings and so forth. But now I think that they're getting through the social media and the internet, they're getting exposed to a lot of different designs. I think that benefits the retail jeweler.
With all the different stories in the jewelry industry that you've written about and so forth, do you have any, I guess, tips or insights for jewelers?
Well, I specifically write to retail jewelers. Again, the one thing that I would always make sure, the advice that I would give to them are, make sure that you keep your staff trained first and foremost, and keep them well motivated. Another thing is, the one thing that I've seen a lot of retail jewelers do is, because they sell, high-end, very fancy, expensive jewelry, that they think that they are part of that lifestyle that their customers can afford. You're not.
Yeah, exactly.
And so don't get all caught up in that sort of very, very elevated, thinking of yourself. Just because you sell expensive things that rich people can afford doesn't make you rich. You can wear it from 9 to 5 in your store, then you got to put it back in the safe. So keep humble. Another thing that I would advise to retail jewelers is, be kind to your bench jewelers. Make sure that they're well staffed and their production area is always safely ventilated. Get them good equipment. And then give them the same sort of consideration and training that you do with your sales staff.
Right.
Excuse me, because they're always pulling in sales trainers, or watch this video on how to better sell diamonds.
Right.
Watch this video how to better sell colored stones. But make sure your bench jewelers get some refresher. And then another thing is just always keep an eye on succession planning.
Yes.
Because the end of the road comes a lot faster than you think.
Right.
And don't get another thing I see is with some retail jewelers, they get really stuck in a certain way of doing business because it's the way it's always been done.
Right.
Try to branch out. Everyone kind of talks, well, how can I reach the younger generation? How can I reach the millennials? How can I reach Gen X? It's like, well, when you're a baby boomer and you're stuck in this mindset from the 80s and 90s, you're not going to reach them at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think you're cool because you can send out a repair notice by text, I mean, I'm sorry. This is that's just a very, very small, convenience service that you're offering. Try to break out of your comfort zone and do something that is really sort of innovative and fun, because that gets people talking about you, and it creates that sort of buzz that people really are after in a retail business.
Yeah.
And I've seen some jewelers do some outlandishly funny things. I think it's in the Philadelphia area. There was I forget the name of the jewelry store.
Billboards?
Yeah, it's just like, I hate Steven Singer.
Yeah.
And it was really funny, and it's crazy because Mr. Singer and his staff helped a particular customer with his bridal jewelry. Then he had a kid, and then they were going in there for a jewelry repair, and it's just like, oh my God, I've got a second child on the way, he goes. And just jokingly, the customer just said, I hate Steven Singer, because now he's got, wife, 2 kids, and all this responsibility. And they just ran with it.
Yeah.
And it just was incredibly wild.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from the Philadelphia area, and we've been seeing those billboards for a long time, and IHateStevenSinger.com.
I know.
What the hell is this? Ex-girlfriend, and then, of course, you want to check it out, and like, oh, look at that. It's a jewelry.
And then they did something like the largest bubble bath.
Really?
They even got a Guinness World. I think they got a Guinness on that one. Not a Guinness beer, like a Guinness world record on that. I think they actually got the world's largest bubble bath in their store.
Wow.
It was crazy. And
they're being different. Being unique really helps. Obviously being different sets you aside, sets you apart from others.
And if you pull Steven Singer out of his element and his retail element, he's just like a regular guy.
Right.
But you get him in his retail environment, and he knows how to shake things up and do things differently. Now, retail jewelers in sort of remote areas of the United States, oh my God, I can't have bikini-clad girls in a store environment doing a bubble bath. But hey, it's just, people talked about it. Whether you liked it or not, people talked about it.
Yeah, there's a jeweler outside of Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm thinking about the name of her store right now, but she loves animals, and she's had a horse in her store, and people would come in, and people love animals. And
they do.
And that's why, even Southern Jewelry News does their Furry Friends edition, right? They feature the jewelers that have their dogs and pets in the stand.
Well, it's funny, especially here in Minnesota, in the Midwest, people just love their dogs. They just love their dogs. And you see a lot of jewelry stores here, even other businesses that are not jewelry related. They bring their animals to work. I think it's kind of great, because I think dogs especially are very social creatures. Mm-hmm. And if your dog is well trained and, can deal with a lot of adversity with different people and so forth, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. So what is there any story in jewelry that you want to write that you is there something in the ecosystem that, boy, I'd love to learn about that and write something about?
Oh, I think I've kind of ticked a lot of those boxes, Guy. It's really funny. I pitched a story idea to Bill, the editor of Southern Jewelry News, on how store owners can be their own spokesperson. And the reason I did it is because there's a local jewelry store that just does an awful job of it. Okay. An awful job. Just hideously bad. Everyone just kind of pokes fun of them, but again, it's so bad that people talk about it. Right. So is that good or is it bad?
Exactly.
Anyway, so I did a 4-part series on, young, very, very dynamic jewelry store owners that I think do a really good job of being their own spokesperson. One of them is John Carter out of the Chicago area, I believe, Bloomington, Illinois. I'm sorry, I'm from Bloomington, Minnesota. So how can I forget? And another one is a buddy of mine in Appleton, Wisconsin. and Jason. And Jason's really an interesting jeweler. He's one of those guys that definitely breaks out of his comfort zone because he's in a college town. Appleton, Wisconsin is definitely a college town, but there's lots of industry that support it. He's painted mural. He did a big mural on the side of his building. He has a photo booth, a digital photo booth in his store.
Nice.
He has T-shirts T-shirts that he gives away to young couples.
Yeah.
He has a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I liked about Jason the most is, and I don't know if he does it these days, but every year from Thanksgiving to Christmas Eve, he would wear a different Christmas costume.
Right.
So one year he was the Grinch, another time he was a Christmas elf.
Yeah.
And he literally wears it all hours of operation, day to day, from Black Friday to Christmas Eve. He's even said he's out there shoveling in his costume, clearing the sidewalk in his front store, and he's in costume.
Nice.
But he really hams it up.
Right.
He's gotten some great local media coverage.
Perfect.
From it, and again, it's it's people got to just remember it. You got to keep that buzz going.
Exactly.
And that's where I think the innovative thinking and getting out of your comfort zone is really, really vitally important for retail jewelers. Right. Do it. Take a risk. What do you got to lose?
Exactly. Well, we're new to Minneapolis, and you're native. What's the fun thing to do around here?
Well, Minnesota is known for its lakes, of course. It says land of 10,000 lakes, but it's actually 12,000 plus. I don't know the exact number. So I think here in the cities, just tour the lakes, Lake of the Isles, Lake Calhoun, Lake Harriet. It's a fun way to just sort of see Minnesotans in their lake environment.
Okay.
Here in the area. Minnehaha Falls is really a neat place to see.
How far is that?
From the downtown area, maybe about 10 to 12 miles. It's unfortunate.
I love taking pictures of waterfalls.
Well, we've had a really dry summer, so don't get your hopes up too much. It won't be flowing with the energy of of Niagara by any stretch. Yeah. But it's a great city. I really love it here. There's a couple of things that I wish could change over time, but it's what can you do? Right. It's a very high-tax state, and I think
all right, vendors, our jewelers are here, and it's time to buy!
Woo!
Woohoo! Boot. So and it's a great city, but it's just we need to kind of clean house on the politicians that allowed this COVID stuff and these riots just take the city down a few pegs. Wow. Now Minneapolis is sadly on the same level as Detroit and Chicago. Whenever they're in the news, they kind of talk about crime-ridden cities. Right. Minneapolis is now in the top 5, and that is truly heartbreaking for me. And I would like to see that turn around, but that's what elections are for, so we'll see what happens in the fall of 2022.
Got it. Wow. Well, I wanted to make sure. Well, Paul.
Wow, there I am above the fold. All right.
Look at that.
Above and below. This is the retail jeweler that I was talking about. Stephen Shannon. He created, what is it? Midwest Jewelry Academy.
The one with, yes, you were talking about that. That's great. And
this guy gets it, and he's been in the business forever and a day. Like I said, I think he's contributed everything he can to the industry and the community by being a jeweler. Mm-hmm. Now he's contributing to the industry at large and locally by ushering in a new generation of bench jewelers or sharpening the skills of people that are current bench jewelers. And I think it's great. Again, I don't mean to harp too much on bench jewelers, but again, unsung heroes.
Great. Well, make sure everyone listening, and if you're watching, pick up your latest issue of Mid-America Jewelry News, or if you're in the South, you might get Southern Jewelry News. Read Paul's article about the Indiana retailer opens jewelry school. And
Cargo Hold is also celebrating 50 years in business. They're a great store or a great jewelry manufacturing as well.
Perfect. Well, we certainly appreciate you coming by and talking to us here.
Guy, thank you for the time. I really love what you're doing. It's great that you and Elisa have paired up. She's a wonderful lady. She's very dedicated to the industry. She knows a ton of people, and she's just an inherently good person, and it shows in everything she does. And it's a real joy to work with Southern Jewelry News and the staff.
Yeah, they're great. So make sure you subscribe. Get the publication, subscribe to the newsletter, subscribe to the podcast. Thanks, everyone. We're here at RJO, and Paul, thank you.
Guy, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry Podcast. For more information about the show, please visit southernjewelrynews.com/podcast, brought to you by Southern Jewelry News and Jewelry Store Marketers. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you can catch the next show. See you then.